Imagine you're camping in one of the coldest places on Earth. Outside, temperatures have dropped below -30 degrees Celsius. A fierce wind howls across a barren mountainside. Inside your tent, you and your friends are exhausted after a long day of hiking. Then something happens. Something so terrifying that all of you suddenly abandon your shelter in the middle of the night. Not only do you leave your tent behind, you slash your way out from the inside. You don't stop to put on your boots. You don't grab your coats. You don't even take supplies. You run straight into the frozen darkness. Hours later, some of you are dead. Months later, investigators discover bodies scattered across the snow-covered wilderness. Several victims have suffered mysterious injuries. One is missing a tongue. Others have devastating chest and skull fractures. More than 6 decades later, people are still asking the same question. What happened to the 9 hikers at Dyatlov Pass? This is the story of one of the world's most baffling and controversial mysteries. The year was 1959. The Soviet Union was in the middle of the Cold War. Adventure and exploration were highly respected, and difficult mountain expeditions were considered a test of courage and skill. Among those adventurers was a 23-year-old engineering student named Igor Dyatlov. Dyatlov was an experienced hiker and respected leader. In January 1959, he organized a challenging skiing expedition through the northern Ural mountains of Russia. The group consisted of 10 young hikers. Most were university students or recent graduates. They were experienced, physically fit, and familiar with harsh winter conditions. Their goal was ambitious. They planned to travel hundreds of kilometers through remote wilderness and earn the highest hiking certification available in the Soviet Union. The route would take them through a rugged region known for brutal weather and extreme temperatures. One of the mountains along their journey was called Kolat. In the language of the indigenous Mansi people, its name roughly translates to Dead Mountain. At the time, nobody paid much attention to that chilling name. Soon, however, it would become infamous around the world. The group departed in late January. They traveled by train, truck, and skis to reach the starting point of their expedition. Throughout the journey, they took photographs, wrote diary entries, and appeared cheerful. The hikers laughed, sang songs, and enjoyed the adventure. Nothing seemed unusual. However, shortly after the trip began, one member of the group became ill. His name was Yuri Yudin. Suffering from severe joint pain, he made the difficult decision to turn back. At the time, he was disappointed to leave his friends behind. Years later, he would realize that decision saved his life. The remaining 9 hikers continued deeper into the wilderness. As they approached the mountains, conditions worsened. Snowstorms reduced visibility. Powerful winds swept across the slopes. Even so, the group pressed forward. On February 1, 1959, they made a critical decision. Instead of moving into a nearby forest where they could find shelter from the wind, they set up camp on the exposed slope of Kolat. It would be the last campsite they ever made. The final photographs taken by the group show them setting up their tent in the snow. The images appear ordinary. No signs of fear. No signs of danger. Just 9 experienced hikers preparing for another cold night in the mountains. Sometime after sunset, they settled into their tent. Then, during the night, something happened. Investigators would later discover that the tent had been cut open from the inside. This detail immediately raised questions. Why would experienced hikers slash their own tent? The entrance was only a few feet away. Yet evidence showed they chose to escape through cuts in the fabric instead. Even stranger, they fled without properly dressing. Many left behind boots, jackets, gloves, and essential survival equipment. In temperatures cold enough to kill within hours, this made little sense. Whatever frightened them appeared so urgent that they abandoned everything. The hikers ran into the darkness. And that decision would seal their fate. The group was expected to send a message upon completing the expedition. When no communication arrived, relatives became concerned. At first, officials assumed the hikers were simply delayed by bad weather. But as days passed, anxiety grew. Search teams were organized. Volunteers, students, military personnel, and rescue workers joined the effort. Finally, on February 26, searchers located the campsite. What they found was disturbing. The tent was partially buried in snow. Its contents remained inside. Boots. Clothing. Food. Personal belongings. Everything suggested the hikers had left suddenly. Footprints led away from the tent toward a nearby forest. Surprisingly, the tracks indicated that the group had walked rather than run. This only deepened the mystery. At the edge of the forest, investigators made a grim discovery. Beneath a large cedar tree lay the bodies of two hikers. They were barefoot and dressed only in underwear. Nearby, evidence suggested they had attempted to build a fire. The fire had burned out long ago. The two young men had frozen to death. The mystery was only beginning. As the search continued, 3 more bodies were found between the cedar tree and the campsite. Among them was Igor Dyatlov himself. The positions of the bodies suggested they had been trying to return to the tent. They never made it. Official reports listed hypothermia as the cause of death. However, the remaining 4 hikers were still missing. Weeks passed. Then months. Finally, in May, rescuers discovered the last 4 bodies buried beneath deep snow in a ravine. What investigators found shocked them. These victims displayed severe injuries. One woman, Ludmila Dubinina, was missing her tongue. Others had missing eyes. Several had massive chest fractures. One victim suffered a skull injury. Experts compared the force of these injuries to those seen in major car accidents. Yet there were few external wounds. No signs of a prolonged struggle. No obvious explanation. Adding to the mystery, traces of radiation were reportedly detected on some clothing. The case suddenly became far stranger than a simple accident in the mountains. Soviet investigators struggled to explain the evidence. There were no signs of another group's presence. No evidence of robbery. No indication of murder by local tribes. The indigenous Mansi people were quickly ruled out as suspects. Witnesses in nearby areas reported seeing strange orange lights in the sky around the time of the incident. Some believed secret military tests were being conducted nearby. Others suspected experimental weapons. Rumors spread rapidly. Eventually, Soviet authorities closed the investigation. The official conclusion stated that the hikers had died due to an unknown compelling force. The wording only fueled further speculation. What exactly was an unknown compelling force? No one knew. And the mystery entered history. Over the decades, countless theories have attempted to explain what happened. One popular explanation is an avalanche. According to this theory, shifting snow threatened the campsite, causing the hikers to panic and flee. Recent scientific studies have suggested that a rare type of avalanche may indeed have been possible. However, critics argue that certain details still don't fit. Others believe the hikers accidentally witnessed secret military experiments. The reported radiation and strange lights have kept this theory alive for decades. Some suggest powerful infrasound waves created panic and confusion among the group. More extreme theories involve extraterrestrials, secret Soviet agents, or even a mysterious creature lurking in the mountains. While these ideas capture public imagination, none have been proven. Every theory explains some evidence. None explain all of it. Today, the location is known as Dyatlov Pass, named after the expedition's leader. The frozen mountains remain silent. The wind still sweeps across the slopes where 9 hikers spent their final night. Modern investigations have provided possible answers. Yet many questions remain. Why did the hikers leave their tents so suddenly? What frightened experienced adventurers enough to run into a deadly blizzard without proper clothing? And what caused the mysterious injuries found months later? More than 60 years have passed. The hikers are gone. The snow has long melted. But the mystery remains. Hidden among the frozen peaks of the Ural Mountains. Waiting for an answer that may never come. If you enjoyed this investigation and want more true crime and historical mysteries, subscribe and join us for the next story. Because sometimes the most frightening mysteries are the ones that really happened.